Only a few of us, the students of Elizabeth Pavlovna Gerdt, now remain. In the first class, there were 22 of us girls. What kind of person was Gerdt? Well, first and foremost, Gerdt was a special presence in the classroom. Even with a group of 9-year-olds, she never raised her voice, was always calm, collected, and it seemed to me was an extraordinarily beautiful woman. It occurs to me now that even then, while I was studying her and trying to absorb and discern, how could she be that good, that attractive? The way she sat, her carriage, poise, beauty, and majestic hair, the way she spoke. Even so, during the lessons, she was a person of very few words. During our lessons, she never ran around the room. For that, and for other busyness, she had an assistant. The nature of hands and their movements were particularly important and very much emphasized during her lessons. Her hands themselves were strikingly beautiful. Basically, she had a technique in this area, but at that time, no one even knew the word or the term, technique of hands. I think Elizabeth Pavlovna herself probably didn't really know it then, as it wasn't widely used. But now, as the years have gone by, I not only remember the rules she told us, but use them myself as a teacher. Both students and artists immediately understand what I am suggesting to them, and then it came to be immediately executed and remembered for a lifetime. Here, for example, is the preparatory position of the hands, which used to be called the first position. A distance of 3 fingers should be kept between the wrists, and then, while moving the arms up, that distance should be maintained. And now, posing with the hands raised above the head, the third position, I'm looking straight ahead. But I should still see my hands from my peripheral vision. If I don't see them, then they are not correctly in place. At the elbow, the arm should be rounded. This way, I see my hands while looking straight ahead, without having to look up. Also, according to Gerdt, hand movements begin at the wrist, not from the elbow as is commonly done today. Not even from the wrist, actually, but from the very tips of the fingers. It's as though your hands are taking a breath of air. When I move my hands to the side, I also see them in my peripheral vision. They should neither be too far behind, nor too far in front of the body. You have to check yourself all the time. No, I can't see them. There, I see them. That means your hands are in place. Gerdt, in the truest sense of the word, built up our wrists. She would call each of us and say, "Drop your wrist. It should be easy and graceful. Whatever form your fingers take, hold them just like that." It came straight from nature, holding your wrist in classical dance. And when she explained it to us that no one hooked their fingers, and just like that, the wrist became easy, confident and beautiful. And that's all you need. That's the kind of thing Gerdt would say to us. I remember well how, after her explanations, each of us students came up to the grand piano, which was in the classroom. It was never just a piano, specifically a grand piano. And Gerdt asked, "Put your hands on the piano, here. And now take them off. And then you won't do it that way anymore. You've forgotten? Come, put your hands again on the piano. See how my hands are formed. They're round, they're comfortable. And now raise your hands up a bit. Good." I remember how we came to class and used our hands to remember things. That was it. If one of us held up our hand higher than the belly button, she would tell us. In the Imperial theaters, balletomans, nobility, and the wealthy sat in the front row. And there was a tradition after the show, in appreciation, admiration, passion, or celebration. Some gave expensive jewelry to the dancers they particularly liked. In acknowledgement, they were thrilled when the dancers wore the jewelry when dancing on stage. But because of this, They couldn't raise their hands high enough during the dance, because their necks with the expensive jewelry were supposed to be visible. Fans could see their diamonds adorning a beautiful female's neck, wrist, or ears. Gerdt told us that story, and I should say that I too use this technique. When someone turns pirouettes, raising their hands, or just running with such high-handed pa, 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 I say impossible. The diamonds are supposed to sparkle. They must be seen. Imagine that you have a diamond necklace around your neck, which an admirer from the third row of the stalls should be able to see. And then sit down in a pose, open. Everything has to shine. I inherited that story from Gerdt. She was very pretty and left an indelible impression on the students. The girls would remember it at once. What else do I remember from Gerdt's lessons? Let's say this is the position, and this is the path to the position. That's what I call it. The path to this particular position of the hands. This is how the transition from one hand position to another happens, usually. There is a fixation here and here. But how does it happen? Well, it's all right there in front of you. It's all visible and shows the beauty of the passage of the hand from one pose to another based on the speed and rhythm of the music. It can be fast, it can be very fast, or it can be very slow and elegant. It is this path that is completed by the hands, neck, eyes, head, and even the tips of the fingers. It's the hands that solidify the pose. Not the pose itself. A pose and the movement in a pose which crowns the movement. Children are very quick to understand and remember this. But if you don't tell them, there arises the formality of this passage. But the movement of her hands, and this is the element of the dance, and this knowledge of the movement is necessary to work through in rehearsal and in teaching work. I still remember very well how Gerdt taught us to construct our attitude. We were taught not to use our attitudes as tools. She got right to the heart of the matter. We stood in the fifth position. At first was the demi-plié, stand, right foot back, effacé, coup d'pied. I stand here, hands as we have already seen, and then I move my knee away together while unfolding my hands, keeping them together. It seemed difficult, just in the second class, to be moving in the center of the hall on one foot, but all of us succeeded. I don't remember what kind of secrets Gerdt was telling us, but I do remember that the movement always worked out, and I remember that it was praised. That means I understood right then what she had explained. And so, when I come to class, I know that if I teach the same way Elizabeth Gerdt taught me, my students will succeed. I remember one other time, we, the little kids, were dancing cupids at the Bolshoi Theatre's Ballet Don Quixote, alongside real artists, stars. This is a special story. First, it's the old Bolshoi Theatre. The smell. The air was full of the smell of grease paint, the smell of powder, of wigs, the smoky vapor of the lights. I remember the room where we first entered, and where we were costumed in pink wigs with little flowers. We were dressed in light coats, and during the dance we held little arrows. I remember the hand position, one hand here, and the other level with the navel. It was unforgettable, starting with the flavor of the theater, the atmosphere of the theater. For me, it was always something special. My heart still skips a beat when I remember it. I remember that the theater is truly a temple. Then there was something amazing in the dressing room, where we changed clothes, in these light coats, in these pointed shoes with solid toes, which treacherously slapped against the stage, and these slowly moving hands folded as if you were listening to something. Now I remember. "Listen, kids, listen," said Gerdt, "listen." And our hands shot upwards, not dramatically, but smoothly as she taught, outlining the movement with her own hands. It was only on the account of 4 that our hands went to the final position. For instance, I remember the ballet Don Quixote, and our first steps onto the stage. We were cupids. Gerdt is sitting in the shining gold auditorium in the box. She was very close to the stage, a little above it, when we went out, or rather ran out onto the stage, and suddenly I saw that Gerdt was watching us. It was, I don't know, why do I remember it? It was, on the one hand, a kind of celebration for us. Gerdt was watching. She was watching us dancing, watching me dance. Amazing, wondrous on the one hand, also a sense of responsibility, because after all, Gerdt was watching us. So it was very important how I'd do the moves, how I'd stretch out my hand, how I'll jump, glide, des emboîtés, and so on. Seemingly small things, but I wanted very much for Elizabeth Pavlovna to come to class the next day and praise my performance, and I'd be joyful, because I'd done everything right. I can't say that she was a teacher who tried stubbornly to achieve goals. On the contrary, her softness combined with a quiet insistence certainly achieved results. The great dancers of the 20th century were her pupils. Alla Soloist, who taught before her departure from Leningrad at the Mariinsky Theatre and when she danced in Moscow, Maya Plisetskaya, Violetta Boft, Raisa Stuchkova, Ekaterina Maximova, Elena Ryabinkina. Even these 6 historic personalities of ballet, let's call it the Soviet Ballet Theatre, are a big deal. They were all different, multifaceted. They were all individuals. They were stars. Even alone, their names suggest that Gerdt was an outstanding teacher, and teacher with a capital T. I'm absolutely convinced of this. When she took our class, she was around 67 years old. So she was going to teach us for 8 years, and then would be done. But taking on such young children at her age was very difficult. For some reason, she didn't take a 5th grade or senior class, but us. So she planned to mold us and make artists of us. The plan didn't work out. Why? I don't know. When we finished the 2nd grade, Gerdt left the school for the Bolshoi Theatre. Her students were there, she tutored them. Apparently, she didn't feel that it was possible to combine teaching young children together with her work in the theatre. Meeting and learning from Gerdt was, for me and in my life, an event of great importance. Her lessons were at the same time both academic, while truly manifesting a love of classical dance, and which for me is still the highest expression of art. Everything around us is already different. Everything is modern. The classics are even danced differently. Everything's abrupt, high energy, fast, active, and gentleness and brightness, they're there. But there is tenderness and ease, and they're different. But as far as subtlety in entering the movement, and subtlety in carrying out the movement, I don't see it. I don't see this subtlety. Apparently it has left ballet, made history, and probably will never return.